Okay, so the first step in our road to the sale is going to be a greeting. And it sounds like a very basic and simplified thing, but actually it's quite important. And it's really difficult to do properly. And I'll give you a quick story as to how important it is. When I was selling cars, we did a 2-year deal with training with Grant Cardone. He's one of the better known sales trainers. And they came in and they would do a month. 1 month they would come in and 1 month they would come in and do a classroom training, and the next month they'd come in and work one-on-one with us. Well, it was one of the early classroom trainings, and the trainer says, well, today we're going to talk about how to properly greet somebody. And everybody kind of rolled their eyes and said, oh my gosh. So the guy says, look, I know what you're thinking, but if you'll do what I tell you to do and greet everyone the same way, regardless if it's a new car, a used car, or whatever, I guarantee that you'll sell at least 2 more cars than you normally do, or you don't have to come to class anymore. And I thought, challenge accepted. I took the instruction, as I'm about to lay out here, on how to construct a proper greeting, and I said it to everybody that came in the door. Well, darn if I didn't sell 2 more cars than I had the previous month, or on an average month. So I started thinking about, why did that work? Well, I think part of it was because I knew what I was going to say. So a sale is kind of like a giant boulder, and it's a little difficult to get it moving. It can kind of be intimidating. But if you don't get it rolling in the right direction, bad things can happen. So the fact that I knew what I was going to say, I had a good bit of confidence. And when I approached the customer, I think they picked up on that. The other thing was, it didn't take me very long to realize that I had a pretty good idea of what they were going to say. And then it gave me a good idea how I was going to respond. And it just got things going in a very positive way, and kind of set the tone for the rest of their time with me. Yet, to get down to business, you have to remember your first focus is to establish yourself as someone worth listening to. Now, if I were to ask you if you were a judgmental person, most likely you'd say no. But the reality of it is, we are very judgmental. It's part of our DNA. When our ancestors lived in caves, they had an instinct to determine whether or not it was fight or flight, eat or get eaten, kill or be killed. So we have that bred into us. So we do make judgments. Well, we may not act on them immediately, but we do. So when someone sees you, before you even say a single word, they're gonna start making a judgment of you. And there's a question that goes over and over in their mind, and it never stops playing. It never stops asking that question. Do I want to do business with this person? So in order for that to be a yes, you have to establish yourself as someone worth listening to. So how do you do that? Well, according to Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, who I do a lot of my sales inspiration from, he said you have to establish yourself as 3 things. One is to be sharp as a tack. And what that means is the way you present yourself. Are you clean shaven? Are you well put together? Are your clothes neat and clean? Do you smell like cigarette smoke? You only get one chance to make a first impression. So it's the way that you present yourself, the way that you carry yourself, that's going to determine that first impression of whether or not you got it together or not. The second thing is to be enthusiastic. And enthusiastic doesn't mean a lot of rah, rah, here we go, I'm so glad you're here. It's really more of a inner confidence, a full confidence of yourself and your product. And of course, we're lucky that we sell Hondas, so that's very easy to have confidence in the products. And if we do our training right and we learn what I'm about to teach you guys, then you'll have the tools you need to have all the confidence that you require. And the last thing of the 3 things that he says you got to be is you got to be perceived as an expert in your field. And that comes from product knowledge and just really from being prepared to where you know how you're going to handle something. One of the great things about the car business is it's pretty predictable. We've been doing this for over 100 years, and we have a pretty good idea of what the customer's concerns are, what their fears are, and what their questions are going to be. And with that, we can actually prepare ourselves and be better suited to help them find what it is they're looking for and make a car sale. So with that, then your second priority is to gain their trust. And how do we do that? Well, we gain trust by making them, first of all, feel like you care about them more than just a sale. And how do you do that? Well, from the time that you say hello to them to the time that you ask for the business, you're doing 2 things. One, you're building rapport. Rapport meaning you're kind of making a friend, you're finding common ground, things like that. things that you share. And the second thing is you're gaining information. Now, that's an important part of because the more rapport you have, the more information they're probably willing to give up to you. So what we're going to do with that information is we're going to, you'll find out later here, is we're going to use that to make sure we're on the right car so that we can help structure the deal properly to be more to their liking. And then the third thing is maybe we can use some of this information they gave us to close the deal. So with all that being said, to move into, one more thing, you have to remember that there are 3 priorities of a car deal. The first priority is to sell the car. The second priority is to secure the financing or payment. And the third priority is to make money. And the key thing to remember is it has to be in that order. And fortunately for you, you're simply charged with selling the car. Points 2 and 3 are going to be someone from the business office or maybe one of your managers. But your job is to sell the car. So the first thing we're going to do is when someone comes in, we're going to greet them in such a way that makes them feel warm, welcome, and appreciated. Because you have to keep in mind that, people hate coming to car dealerships. So if they come, they got a real reason to be there. In fact, there are surveys that say that 80% of the people that come to a car dealership have an intent to purchase. Doesn't necessarily mean they will. We may not have what they're looking for. They may not be qualified to purchase. But 80%, 8 out of 10 people come in and have an intent to purchase. The other thing that you have to remember is that about 8 out of 10 people are going to tell you they're not buying today. They're just here to look or, kick tires, whatever. And one of the key things to remember for that is that you should listen to everything that someone tells you, but don't necessarily believe it all as being truthful. They'll tell us stuff that's not true all day long. So when somebody comes in, it's kind of like when you go to maybe a retail store and you walk in and someone comes up and says, "Oh, may I help you?" And you say, "No, I'm just looking," because you want some space. You want a little time. You don't want to feel pressured. Well, in the car business, they'll tell us straight up, "I'm not buying today." So the response for that would be, "Oh, sure, it's fine. It's kind of a process. I mean, not very many people do buy on the first time in. So I tell you what, we'll look around and see if you can find a car you like. And then I'll get you all the information you need so that when you're ready to make a decision, you can make an informed one. Is that okay?" And of course, most likely they're going to say yes. Then you can follow that up with, "By the way, you don't need to buy this today, do you?" Now that may sound like a weird question, but the reality of it is one of the things we're trying to do in the greeting is put their mind at ease. And also, if we get down the road a little bit and we find that we don't have the car they're looking for, chances are we can get it, but they may not want to wait around. So we can say, "Well, you did say you weren't buying today, so I can get you the car you like. And so let's try this green one over here, and I can get you a blue one. In fact, if you like it, we can put the deal together. And when the car comes in, I'll have it all cleaned up and paperwork ready. So all you'll have to do is sign and drive." And almost everybody's going to like that scenario. So how do we greet somebody when they walk in? Well, we're going to say, first of all, instead of saying, "Welcome to Burns Honda, my name is Bill Ford, how can I help you?" You're going to hear that at every store. And we're trying to differentiate ourselves from the rest of the competition. So, a good thing is just say, "Hey, good afternoon. Thanks so much for coming in. Is this your first time here?" And that's an answer to be yes or no. If it's a yes, did you come to see anyone in particular? Because we don't want to spend a lot of time with someone else's customer. And if they say no, they didn't, then, "Well, listen, my name is Bill. I'd be happy to help you. So what did we come in to see today?" Now, if the answer is no, it's not my first time in today, our response would be, "Well, welcome back. When was the last time you were here?" And of course, it may have been yesterday. It could be a month ago, 2 years ago. They might have bought a car from us back in 1993. But whatever the response to that is, say, "Well, thank you for coming back in. Do you remember who you spoke with or worked with?" And if they say no, say, "Would you like me to look it up for you?" Because I would be happy to do that. And if they say no, that's kind of code for, "I didn't have a good experience. You're just lucky that I'm back here." So you can move on and say, "Introduce yourself. Hey, my name is Bill. I'll be more than happy to help you. So what's it we came in to see today?" So once we properly greet someone, make them feel warm and welcome and appreciated, the next step would be a needs analysis. But I'd like to have a little bit of a transition in there. Let's kind of set the tone for this is going to be a little bit different of a experience that you might have already had or that you may have in the future. So It's something called spin selling, and spin selling is basically it's an acronym. S is for situation, P is for problem, I is for implication, and then N is for needs realization. And if you ask what the situation is, it reveals the problem. Then you ask them what are the implications of that, and then you ask them, if you could solve that problem, would life be good? And of course, they would say yes. So that gives them a reminder that they really do need to do this. And so the way that would go is, so what's got you out looking for a new car? And the customer might say, well, my car is too big, too small, it gets bad gas mileage, we've outgrown it, whatever it happens to be, it's getting old, whatever it happens to be, that's the problem. And then you can say to them, so how's that impacting your life? And they say, well, for example, if they said they've outgrown their car, they might say, you could say, well, how's that impacting your life? And they would say, well, we can't go anywhere. It's a nightmare if we try because there's 4 kids in the back seat and 2 car seats, and they're always fighting with each other, and they're very distracting. It's really not safe for us to drive, so we just don't go anywhere. So you would say, how would it feel if you could make that go away, if you could fix that problem? And of course, they'd say, oh man, life would be great. So again, that's the needs realization, that life would be great if they could solve their problem. So it really kind of subtly reminds them that they need to do this. And at that point, you've greeted them, you made them feel warm, welcome. You ask them some questions like, what's going on in your world? What's got you out looking for a car? They reveal their problem. You kind of ask them, how would life be if we could solve that problem? And they'd say life would be great, which is a subtle reminder that they really do need to take care of this, and it's going to set them up on a positive path to go the rest of the way. And our next step is step 2, and that is a needs analysis.